All right, well, here we are for the final show of the series. I'm Becky Cullen and this is Notts TV Book Club, a time and place to talk about books. And it's our final book club before the cameras at Notts TV finally stop rolling. So we're going out in style with a trio of guests who are always good value for money. Sock lover and playwright Billy Ivory. Friend to the jumpsuit from Nottingham City of Literature, Hannah Trevathan. And writer and librarian, the finely curled and coiffed Jaden Morton. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
So here we are. We're going to talk, first of all, about what being involved with book club has meant to you. Obviously, it's a life-changing experience, but let's start with you, Billy.
I've loved it.
Oh, and hello, by the way.
Hello, yes. Hello, my darling. Hello, yes. No, I mean, it's been fantastic because I have been, in the course of the series, I've just read books that I wouldn't have read otherwise, I think, because, you know, you would say to me, read this. And then I've loved the discussions, and I've never been in a book club. You know, my wife is, but I've never been in one other than this one, and I just love the experience of it because it makes me think about books in a different way to the way I normally do.
Are there any books that you've read that you think you might adapt?
The stand-up Ferren Burke, if I can just get
right, okay.
talking to Lenny Henry about that at the moment, just to name drop terribly. But it's I think it was my favourite book I read, actually.
And it all started here. Yeah. It all started here. If you see that later. So Jaden, how about you?
How about me? Well, when I first started with book club, I was working as a bookseller after I just finished a master's degree that really wasn't working and a career that really wasn't working. And then sort of, I've had like 3 different jobs, I've lived in 3 different houses, and it's always sort of been this constant that's been really important to me to like, feel like people want to like hear my voice, hear my opinion. That's been really special and give me the confidence to move from one career that wasn't working to one in books where I'm a librarian and offering young people an opportunity to speak, because people gave me that opportunity feels really, really important. So I'm very, very grateful.
Oh, and I'm very, very happy that you've been involved. And Jaden's recommendations, I'm sure you will agree, have been absolutely fabulous. What a fantastic range of recommendations you've given us, and so desperately bad for my bank balance. So,
And mine.
Thank you for that as well. My husband particularly thanks you for that. Hannah, how about you?
Oh, I would echo everybody else. Like, I think the people make the book club. It's been such a brilliant experience to talk to a range of people from across Nottingham about what they love about books, to read books that I wouldn't have read otherwise, revisit some classics, all bangers, I would say.
Yeah.
And also, I think what I want to say is to thank Becky for being such a brilliant host and champion of reading and writing as part of the City of Literature. And actually, the other week we got our evaluation back from UNESCO, and the book club was part of that. And it said that all of our work that we've been doing as the City of Literature is excellent. So what it means to me is that the book club has helped spread the word about the City of Literature and what it means for Nottingham to be a City of Literature as well.
So we can go on a tour of all the different cities of literature and have a book club there now.
We should.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really lovely.
That'd be great. Well, thank you very much for that. Really lovely. And let's move on then to do a bit of a review of your favourite books from the series. So some of these you may have read, and some of them hopefully if you've been on the show you've read them, talking about them, but some of them you might know anyway. So let's go to you first, Jaden. Which one did you pick as a favourite from the show?
The one that came out on top was Keep in the House by Tija Jin. I mean, it's a brilliant book. I was really taken off guard by it when I read it. I don't really know what I was expecting, because I knew it was set in East London. It was about being a young woman in like an underground Turkish drug trade, and I kind of went into it with quite an open mind, and then was completely bamboozled by the beauty of the craft in the writing, the storytelling. And I follow Tija's career like since I read the book, and everything she does is very, very cool. So
really is cool.
Yeah.
We have to go to one of her DJ nights.
Yes,
absolutely do. Yeah.
please.
Yeah, it's a really great book, isn't it? I know, Hannah, you're very fond of it as well.
I'm very fond of it, but I think for all the reasons that Jaden says, I think also Teja as an artist has this great vision of how you can have words and music and film together and really animates what storytelling can be and look like in very, very different ways. I'm, like Jaden, always excited to see what she's doing because it's unexpected.
And also, I can't see cabbages in the same way as anymore. I'm always expecting a cabbage to have a stack of heroin in the middle of it. Yeah, anyway, enough about that. How about you, Billy?
Well, the one that I was on the show, which is the one I've just mentioned, which is Stand Up Fair and Burke, which is Steve Camden novel, and it's partly written in verse, just about a young boy navigating growing up really with an older brother who's a star pupil at the school and has just gone to university, and his father's a new love interest in his father's life, and it just was. It made me cry, and it was so passionate and funny, and just everything you want, everything you want a novel to be, really. And I found it really interesting that it's a young adult novel as well, and so much. I read one or two of those on the course of the show, and a bit in the days of yore when theatre and education was one of the things that was very much in the 70s and 80s was a big thing, and you'd go and see shows for children and for you mustn't do that, and young adults, and actually I used to find them far more impassioned and provocative and what art should be than the adult work, and I certainly felt that in some of the young adult novels I read while I've been on the show.
Yeah, it's lovely. It was a City of Literature choice, wasn't it?
So it was a big city read.
Yeah.
And it was chosen by young people for the young people of Nottingham. Yeah. So it's fantastic.
It's a beautiful book and it feels like the voice in it is so straightforward and clear and authentic, I suppose.
It's clean, isn't it?
It's pure.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely right.
You could just pick it up on a stage and it would sound the same.
Yeah.
Lovely. So Hannah, over to you.
Well, I feel a bit of a fraud picking a book that has no words in it, but
That's okay. Do you want to?
Oh yeah.
Grab it off the table.
I'm going to grab it off the table. It's this very beautiful book by Sean Tan, The Arrival, which is so moving. Billy's talked about crying. Like, I cry every time I read this book because it's really about the power of the story and the nuance and that kind of visual side of things as well, and about belonging and home. And I also think that graphic novels are such a fantastic way for people to get into books in different ways, and that's, you know, how people read a book with no words, but engage with those things can be very different, and we should encourage that multiple ways of engaging with books.
Yeah, and you brought along a graphic novel, didn't you, Jaden, that you wanted to bring to our attention. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so I brought The Roles We Play by Sabah Khan, which I am very sure has been a big city read at one point. I know that you handed it to me.
Yeah, we used it as the start of a project at NTU with the rap programme.
Right.
So then the art and design students used it as inspiration for illustrations, and then our students wrote the stories that went with them. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So this book, Becky passed it to me maybe over a year ago, and I sort of left it on my shelf for a while, and then I read an interview with the author in Wasafiri mag, and was like, oh God, I've actually literally got this book on my shelf. I'll pick it up, and it kind of, like, for me, speaks to what storytelling is, and the way that, when Hannah kept saying reading, even though there were no words, it's meaning and symbol and image on a page that translates into something that we feel. And this book does this so well. It's about growing up in the Middle East, in Kashmir, and then being sort of having to be a political refugee to the UK and not feeling like you fit in. The author then goes on to study architecture and uses like architectural imagery throughout the book. And you can tell that she studied architecture because architecture was a career that I had left, what I mentioned earlier. And I could see all these sort of images that I was kind of encouraged to use when I was sort of studying, being relayed into storytelling, and I was like, oh my god, this book is just fantastic. So it had meaning for me in other ways, but the craft itself is unbelievable. I can't stop looking at it. Yeah.
A good recommendation for another big city reads, yeah. But we've got about, thank you, we've got about a minute-ish left. So on this half, so in this time, are there any runners-up? Are there any books that get an honourable mention?
The one on the top of the pile there, in the end it was all about love, which wasn't one of the ones I was, but you said you should read this. And can you hold that up for me, just say, there you go. And thank you very much. But it was interesting, because it was like watching a boxing match, that for me, where I didn't love the start of it. I didn't love half of it. And it was like seeing a boxer on the ropes who then suddenly swings this massive punch and lays out the opposition, because then the bit at the core of that novel, the fact that in the end it was all about love, and you come to understand what that is, was profoundly affecting. It's brilliant. And Musa Akwanga was actually a guest on the show as well, so that was really lovely. This is great for me because it's like my rap program and everything else coming together. It sounds like it's been a really fertile experience, kind of bringing these books into people's lives, for the guests as well as for the viewers.
Yeah, and I think for me, I loved when we went and filmed at the D.H. Lawrence Birthplace Trust and the library, and to get to revisit Lawrence. I think, we talk so much about his influence, but to get the opportunity to do a bit of a deep dive was a real treat for me as well.
Yeah, and unapologetically. Well, I think that's all for part one. We'll be back after the break. Hello again, and welcome back to Knott's TV Book Club, a time and place to talk about books with me, Becky Cullen. This month we're saying so long farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu, like the Von Trapp family in a multi-storey bookshop. And first of all, we're going to talk, panel, about books that you love. So who wants to kick off? Billy does.
Billy does. So oranges are not the only fruit.
Yes.
Because we sort of you mentioned there it is.
From 1988.
I was just starting out sort of writing, and I worked with Mike Stott, who's a very good dramatist and from the north west, and he said, "Oh, you should read this book. It's a young woman. She's a young northern writer. It's fantastic. It's funny and it's moving, and it kind of said, it's all the things that you're interested in." And I just thought it was sensationally good and just. And as you mentioned, previously there's a wonderful TV adaptation, but the novel, the language and that sense of place as well, which I hadn't really, apart from in sort of maybe Sillitoe and Lawrence, I'd never come across that. That's such a strong sense of place, and it's really gritty. Isn't it? It's Accrington and Blackpool and all of those things. Oh, I loved it, and I still think it's it's one of my favourite books. The TV adaptation is great, and it isn't around anywhere. So if you could just put a word in with your BBC friends, hobnobbing with them, that'd be great to have back on TV. Thank you very much. Pleasure. How about you?
I have gone with Good Lord by Ella Frears. Because
Good Lord.
Yes, this was really, really hard to choose, and I kind of just went with the one that I loved the most recently. I've followed Ella Frears' career as a poet for a long time, and then she came out with a verse novel about being a renter. It's much more complex than being a renter, but I've moved houses a lot over the past few years, and I think that being a renter can be really kind of stressful at times. And she kind of took everything. She has a lot to say about gender that really spoke to me as well, and she kind of took everything I'd been feeling over the past few years and put it in words, in verse. Kind of maybe one of the books I'm like, oh, I wish I wrote that, or this is where I would like my writing career to go, what I would like to be, a role model for me. So that's why I picked that book.
It sounds brilliant. I have yet to read it. This is going to ruin my bank balance yet again. Thank you very much. Hannah.
Oh, I've chosen a very slim book published by the Emma Press based in Birmingham, and it's called Tiny Moons, and it's written by a really fantastic writer called Nina Minya Pals, and it's a series of essays about her time living in China, and she's from New Zealand, has Malaysian heritage, and it's about finding your place in the world, how you are, descriptions of food which are really evocative, like finding a noodle place, cycling through the cities. So I suppose it's, Billy, about what you were saying about place. There's a real kind of strong sense of place and how you think about yourself when you're in another place, and what that made me. And she's gone on to win a Nature Writing Prize. And she's just a phenomenal writer.
Yeah, and they're doing great things, Emma Press, aren't they?
They really are.
Really good. And it reminds me of Crying in H Mart, which is one of my favourites, by Michelle Zauner, and that way that food becomes entwined with place and family and, you know, that kind of locality. Yeah, brilliant. Great recommendations. So let's move on then to a book that brings you joy. Because this is about reading for pleasure. So what did you come up with? Hannah, let's start with you.
So mine is actually, like Jaden, I thought of a book that I'd read recently, which was just such a joyful reading experience, which is this book, Muckle Flugger, by Michael Pedersen, who is currently the Edinburgh Macker, also a fellow City of Literature. And it's an extraordinary novel about someone who leaves Edinburgh, goes to this island, and sort of is struggling with something quite deep and dark. It doesn't sound very joyful, but it's about finding your people and purpose actually through art and people that you choose to spend time with. There's phenomenal descriptions of birds. There's a kind of orphaned Ukrainian ostrich, and Michael just has this brilliant way with language. It can only be a Michael Pedersen book. He's a fantastic poet. He has this real deep love of language and life which bubbles forth on the page, and I totally adored it.
Just like his voluminous hair.
Yes, how he gets it that high, I don't know.
I don't know either.
He's got quite a presence in person
He
as well
has.
when you meet him. He's so gentle, but there's quite something
Energy.
quite powerful about him, yeah.
Okay, so thank you. You're talking, so you can go next.
Me talking? So when I was like asked to choose some books, I picked Ella Freer's book, and it felt like something. I read a lot. When I'm reading, I'm reading to mine for skills as a writer. And then I started working as a high school librarian, so a lot of the books are young adult books and children's books that like I need to kind of catch up with so I can talk to the children. Someone put His Dark Materials in my hand. I don't know why someone didn't put that in my hand 20 years ago, but I read it and I was like...
It's amazing.
Yeah. Not. I don't think I will ever write fantasy, but like this story, I was in it the whole way.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read the rest of them. Oh my God.
It's so clever.
Oh, you're just in for such a
Oh,
treat.
such a treat.
I
Such a
love
treat.
these books
Yeah.
so much, and I think it's smart and insightful, and the
Atmospheric.
world building is just so
And if you're
excellent.
reading Harry Potter, read this instead.
Get on it.
Yeah.
Everyone has this reaction when I talk about like that I've got to read the rest. Everyone's like, get on it, get on with it.
Yeah.
And
We
that's
love it.
like, that's
Have
when books
you
are like
read
doing
them?
that
Yeah,
thing.
well, I remember we used to go when my family were much smaller, my girls, and we'd go on holidays to Norfolk, and it would rain all the time. So we would go and park the car overlooking the sea and the squall coming in, and I'd read it to them, and we'd get some, fish and chips or whatever, and that's how I kind of, and it was glorious. And we still talk about it as a family,
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I think you've got about 1 minute to tell us about your joyful book.
Well, do you know, the funny thing is, I can't remember what I said when we talked about it, obviously. So, and I thought at first, right, I love comedy. So I was thinking like David Nobbs and Kingsley Amis. Molly Parkin was a writer I remember, loving. And then I thought to myself, no, it's Lawrence. Lawrence always brings me joy. When we did Sons and Lovers, I just thought, actually, this is one of the greatest novels in English, and I still think it is. And then what I'm plumping for, though, finally, is, because I've still got it on my bookshelf, Caravan to Vacares by Alistair MacLean, which was the first book I read when I was 13. I hadn't read a book till I was 13. and there were issues about whether I could read and all that sort of stuff. And it's funny talking about graphic novels. I got it because I went into the booksellers and I'd seen the film on telly, and there was a still of the film on the book, and I thought, oh, it must be like a comic. It'll be like a comic, and it was the first book I read.
Fantastic, Billy, thank you. So, while we're talking about books that bring us joy, I want to say something about the joy that Knots TV Book Club has brought me. I don't want it to end. I'd like to thank the wonderful powerhouses that are Barbara Matthews and Sandy Mahal for getting me involved. Thanks to Craig Chettle and Chris Breeze, to Nicola Dawson and everyone at Knots TV, including Gemma, Luke, Leah, Rose and Tando for all of their hard work. And to the NTU students, Martha, Ella, Ollie, Kai, Ewan, Ramisha and Isabel for working on social media. And the numerous students who've worked on all the Voxers across all the shows, speaking to you, the wonderful readers of Nottingham. I guess I could name you all here, but time is short, and without exception, you've been fabulous. However, hello, I love you to Ashley Hickson Lovens. It has brought me such tremendous joy to spend time with our guests and with you at home, doing my two favourite things, reading books and talking about them. The last 4 years of my life has not been plain sailing the way that life is sometimes, and sometimes before a show, I've wondered if I can string a sentence together, let alone a TV show. But I can tell you this, books are a lifeline. I can promise you that if you are lonely, there is a book that will be your friend. If you feel unloved, there are books that will hold you until you feel better. If you want to travel, a book can be your guide. If you lose hope, a book can help restore your faith. Books aren't miracles, but the way they shape and change us and bring us hope, that is. Let's see our book club highlights. Hello and welcome to Knots TV Book Club, a time and place for talking about books. I'm Becky Cullen, and during this brand new series we'll be talking about books that are best kept secrets, bestsellers and prize winners.
I've not read any book like this at all in my life.
Part of it where I feel like I'm reading a story, and then there's part of it where I feel like I'm reading lots of separate pieces, and how do I link them all together?
Love that that use of imagination as a way to deal with your fear.
There were just so many good lines. Amy's picked out a few, Misha picked out a few. I just thought this was, I really loved it. It was one of my favourite things I've read this year.
What we were saying before about the perspective, it really helped to, the second person really helped to put me in his shoes, obviously.
I think it wouldn't have been as resonating if they would have pretended that it would have been all sunshines and rainbows.
Hello, Jayden.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so Becky, I know we've had a few conversations
Yeah.
that imply that I don't really read men authors, and I think I feel a bit called out there.
So you've
I
read
promise I
something
do.
by a man? Great.
Yeah.
So that's all for now. A huge thank you to you for watching. Until then, goodbye. Bye. Thank you. And that's it. You can find all our episodes by searching Knots TV Book Club on YouTube. It's been such a joy, Nottingham. Keep reading and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.